Why were the New Amsterdam stars initially worried about joining the show? What does Tyler Labine do when real people ask him for medical advice? And how did an eye-opening fan interaction prompt the creators to up their game? Hi, I'm Clive, and you're watching OSSA Movies. Does the cast get along? They say that a happy workplace is a productive workplace, and that age-old adage certainly applies to New Amsterdam. The cast and crew's behind-the-scenes meetings look like a total blast, which is pretty surprising considering that they have to talk about storylines involving Ebola and other upsetting diseases. However, it's easy to laugh about Ebola when you aren't working alongside total jerks. More than anything, the New Amsterdam clan are just thankful to have landed such a sweet gig. In an interview with Metro, Ryan Eggold revealed that he was worried about walking into a toxic work environment when he agreed to do the show. Janet Montgomery echoed these views, revealing that she was nervous about accepting the gig because she didn't know anyone beforehand. After hearing horror stories about other television shows being hell to work on, the actors fear the worst for New Amsterdam. Luckily for everyone involved, those concerns were quickly forgotten as the gang turned out to be really nice. And now they're all great friends who like to wine and dine with each other. In fact, they even got all sentimental and mushy during a Zoom call last year.
It's amazing to see you guys.
It is. It has been amazing.
The team has also proven to be each other's support network off-screen. Anupam Kher described his colleagues as his family and credited them for helping him settle into a new country.
We are actually family.
Yeah.
I'm miles and miles, thousand miles away from my hometown, and to be with these people, I think we recognize the goodness in them.
Just don't try to tell Anupam that their job is important. His ego is much smaller than that of your average Hollywood celebrity, and he keeps his colleagues in line too.
Actors try to take themselves very seriously. It's just a job. A carpenter's job is as complicated as an actor's job.
Judging by the reaction to Anupam's upfront comments there, you get the impression that the New Amsterdam actors are pretty down to earth. They also enjoy having a good laugh, sometimes even at each other's expense. Who's the biggest prankster? Tyler Labine is a big old lovable goofball, so it's unsurprising to learn that he's one of the biggest jokers on the New Amsterdam set. He even knows how to make his friends feel better when they're vomiting everywhere. One time, Janet Montgomery kept being sick because she was pregnant and refused to take it easy. According to Tyler, she just kept returning from the bathroom and nailing her scenes like a pro, as if nothing had happened. Her situation didn't get past Tyler, however, and he managed to get a few laughs out of it. Check out what he had to say on the matter.
Yes, she was pregnant, shooting very difficult emotional content, and in between takes she was going and throwing up. We're shooting scenes a couple feet away from each other. I can smell the puke.
Given that he's associated with so many comedy roles, you'd think that Tyler was the main prankster of the gang. Don't go making assumptions though, for that honor is also shared by Ryan Eggold, or should we call him Ryan the Rascal? In the aforementioned Metro interview, Farima Ajiman revealed that she's always catching her co-star getting up to no good. He's always making mischief, and you turn around and he's in the corner laughing, and it's adorable. Unfortunately, Prima didn't share the juicy details of Ryan's mischievous antics. Maybe that's because he has a cool guy image to preserve. It's strange to associate Ryan with lighthearted humor when you remember that he played a deadly assassin in Blacklist.
Now you.
But that just goes to show that some actors are so good at their jobs that it's easy to forget that they're real people just like you and me. Then again, being associated with their on-screen personas is something that the entire New Amsterdam cast can relate to. Being mistaken for medical professionals. When you're famous for playing a doctor on a hit television show, it's only natural that some members of the public will assume that you're an actual medical expert.
What does an antiemetic do?
Emetic would emit something. It stops the emission of thoughts.
No, something more solid.
That's certainly been the case for the New Amsterdam team anyway. According to Tyler Labine, it's common for people to come up to him on the street and ask for advice regarding behavioral problems and psychological issues. And he always gives it his best shot.
I do get people coming up to me on the street and like, hey, so my cousin has a kid who's like got some behavioral issues.
While Tyler is a nice guy who tries to be as helpful as possible, he's also aware of the fact that he's not really a doctor. So whenever he gets asked questions about health issues, he's quick to point them in the right direction.
I don't know that I can vouch for what I'm actually going to say to you, but I actually end up arming myself with a lot of links and information for websites I can give people because I can't start buying my own hype.
But hey, at least the New Amsterdam cast respects real doctors and the awesome work they do. Then again, maybe that's because some members of the cast have upset some real-life medical pros in the past. I'm looking at you, Tyler. When the Canadian acting veteran took on the role of Dr. Ignatius Frome, one of the heads of psychiatry at Bellevue Hospital asked him if his character was a psychiatrist or a psychologist. Tyler responded by telling him that he's whatever the showrunners tell him to be. This was a no-go, however, and the doc proceeded to give the hairy actor a piece of his mind.
I've spent 25 years of my career making sure that differentiation between a psychiatrist and a psychologist is public knowledge, and it's a big difference, and you need to get them on that.
Tyler took the doctor's advice on board and gave the professionals feedback to the New Amsterdam writers. They were all ears too, which led to Tyler's character being rechristened as the head of behavioral studies in order to avoid any confusion. It also doesn't hurt to have doctors and nurses present on the set to give their advice. For Janet Montgomery, this has been crucial to her gaining a better understanding of her character. Sometimes she goes up to the professionals for advice on how to pronounce the names of certain diseases, only to walk away with a clear understanding of what the ailment is and how it affects people's lives.
Rather than just Googling it and seeing what it is, they always have a story about a patient who had this, so it puts it in context for me. I find that invaluable, and I couldn't do my job as well as I do without them.
Of course, authenticity is something that the New Amsterdam team takes seriously, and they've gone the extra mile to respect their subject matter. Striving for realism. There's no denying that every drama heightens reality to some degree, but the New Amsterdam creators wanted their medical show to be somewhat relatable from the outset. While the hit NBC series started out with the creators telling the story from their perspective, Peter Horton encountered one viewer who asked him to branch out and gain a better understanding of the regular, everyday folks who watch the show. And Peter listened to that viewer.
Last year when the show first came out at one of the screenings, and a man came up in a wheelchair afterwards, and he said, "Please tell my story."
Since encountering the fan, Peter and his colleagues have been traveling throughout the United States ever since, gaining feedback from the overlooked masses. This has led them to some places that they never even thought about visiting when they conceived New Amsterdam.
What stories aren't we telling? What are we getting wrong? Tell us, please. And we had our first experiment with it up in Albany, and it's fantastic.
It sounds like the New Amsterdam creators want to tell real people's stories, but that just doesn't go for the patients. The drama is also concerned with the manic day-to-day struggles faced by hospital staff. While New Amsterdam's doctors come up against all kinds of diseases, the show also makes a point to focus on the challenges faced by medical professionals that some of us might not realize.
Everything that we've been dealing with in life, the hospital's overflowing and too many patients, not enough supplies, trying to get drugs that are needed.
A lot of those problems also stem from the bureaucratic nature of hospitals, and that aspect served as the basis for the series early on. After reading a book called 12 Patients, executive producer David Schulner gained a better understanding of the system and decided that he didn't want to make a show about medical interns getting it on in closets. Scrubs already went there, and New Amsterdam isn't that kind of medical show.
Dude, you're totally hitting that.
How do you do that?
It's a gift.
It was about the system. It was about how patients got to where they are and how doctors couldn't help them because of the bureaucracy in the way.
Sometimes working in such hard conditions tests the humanity of the workers too. And that's a theme that New Amsterdam set out to explore from its inception.
It's about how broken it is and how inhuman it is, and how hard it is to feel human in it.
New Amsterdam's creators also let their cast have some input when it comes to the writing process. One of Iggy's storylines deals with an eating disorder, which is something Tyler Labine can relate to. The actor suffers from body dysmorphia, and his experience proved to be invaluable to his character's arc.
I contributed to writing a bunch of stuff about the Iggy's eating disorder, disordered eating and body dysmorphia. And it ended up being a huge arc.
For Tyler, that was a lot of fun, as it allowed him to bring more layers to his character, as well as drive home how important these issues are. That might sound depressing, but at the end of the day, New Amsterdam is a hopeful show. The series doesn't shy away from the nitty-gritty elements of the medical world, but doctors and nurses are heroes who save lives at the end of the day. And in these uncertain times, it's important to remember that. Now, it's time to hear from you. What is your favorite behind-the-scenes story from New Amsterdam? Let us know in the comments. And if you'd like to find out which cast members are dating, be sure to check out our video.